Good evening, everyone. I'm back and ready to share some more videos with you all. Tonight I'll be briefly covering lands and cities that were taken by the sea, and some obscure legends about sunken places. I've always found this subject very interesting. I hope you enjoy the video. Baia was a vacation spot for the wealthy Roman upper class in the heyday of the Roman Empire. This resort town was around 18 miles from Naples, and scholars, orators, and generals owned beachside homes there. Virgil, the author of the Aeneid, and Cicero, one of the most famous orators in Roman history, took frequent vacations to Baia. The mineral waters and pleasant climate drew the ruling class of Rome to settle the area, starting in the 2nd century BC. The area was called the Flaming Fields due to the many calderas that pockmarked the earth. Construction crews came to the area under the direction of the wealthy and built spas and pools heated by the local hot springs. Baia has been called the Las Vegas of the Roman Empire, with many traveling to the area to conduct illicit affairs or engage in business deals, while far from the prying eyes of their competitors. The town would slowly die after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. The town was ransacked in the 8th century AD and was completely abandoned by 1500. Baia was affected by a process called bradyseism. This occurs in volcanic places like Baia and causes the earth to gradually rise and then fall. The city slowly sank into the shallow water of the bay. It was largely forgotten until the 1940s. A pilot flying over the coastline took an aerial photo of a large building that was visible beneath the surface of the ocean. Geologists studying the area in the 1950s soon found signs that large portions of the coastline had once been above the sea. Underground pressure had been causing the land in which Baia laid to continuously rise and fall, making the ruins sink into the sea and then slowly pushing them back up to approach the surface. The Italian government proceeded to commission a submarine expedition that mapped the sunken city. Baia can be viewed in the present day. It's one of the few underwater archaeological preserves in the world. Visitors can take tours on glass-bottomed boats or dive to enter the ruins. Scientists are currently concerned that further volcanic activity in the area may damage or bury Baia. Tonight I'll be going more in depth about the relatively unknown landmass of Greater Adria. This continent formed 240 million years ago when it broke off of the supercontinent Gondwana. The mass, roughly the size of Greenland, drifted northward and began to sink, forming a shallow tropical sea. The continent formed a series of islands and archipelagos not dissimilar to the Florida Keys. Coral was numerous in Greater Adria, and the seas were full of shelter for aquatic life. It met an unfortunate end around 120 million years ago when it impacted Europe and sank beneath the continent. The sedimentary rocks of Greater Adria formed parts of mountain chains like the Alps and the Apennines. Rock samples have been found in an area stretching from Spain to Iran. It took a scientific team a decade to collect these rock samples and reconstruct the history of Greater Adria. The continent was then unveiled by a team from the University of the Netherlands in 2019. Grand Prince Yuri II, a Russian king who ruled during the 10th and 11th centuries AD, was looking for a place to build a holy city. He picked a spot on the shores of Lake Svetloyar in central Russia, where he constructed the city of Kitezh. The city was full of churches and monasteries dedicated to the one true God. It was protected by embrasured walls that allowed the defenders to fire out while staying safe from enemy fire in return. The city prospered, but Yuri's lands were invaded by the Mongols in 1238. The story goes that the Khan had heard of the city and wanted to go and sack its treasures. He tortured the locals, but they refused to give away Kitezh's location. One captive broke and revealed the concealed pathways that led to Kitezh. The city was never found after that moment. It's said that a miracle caused it to be hidden underneath the lake. An archaeological expedition, called the Vetluski Expedition, went to Lake Svetloyar in 2011 to see what they could find in its depths. They found signs of habitation and fragments of medieval Russian pottery in the waters. Research is still ongoing. The Vedas is one of the oldest pieces of written scripture in the Hindu religion, originating from the Indo-Aryan culture. It contains hymns, passages of philosophy, and a whole service book. It held a history of the world, and in this it mentioned a sunken continent called Rutas, the land of fire. Rutas existed in the eastern Indian Ocean and sank around 14,000 years ago, when a tectonic event suddenly sent it into the deep ocean with all of its inhabitants, or at least according to the book. The sun-worshipping Sara tribes on India's east coast held that the sun deity that was worshipped by the citizens of Rutas was older than humanity itself, and claimed lineage from those worshippers. Finally, I'll tell you the story of the city of Yis to wrap this all up. I'm writing this script in the month of October, so it seemed appropriate to pick a place with a creepier backstory. The story begins in the distant past, when an ancient king established a great city, in the present-day Bay of Douarnenez on the French coastline. There was plenty of land for agriculture, and the civilization established by the king flourished. The land on which the kingdom was established eroded over the course of thousands of years, and the sea was at the high walls of the city by the Dark Ages. A ruler named Gradlon was placed on the throne, and he set to work improving the city, restoring and shoring up the walls, and building massive gates to stop the tide from eroding the foundations. The gates opened to allow ships to dock at the harbor within the walls during the day. The gates had to be shut at night to prevent Yis from being flooded by the steadily increasing waves. The key to the gate mechanism was kept by King Gradlon. The king was a Christian convert, but he was pretty passive. The city was largely pagan, and Gradlon's daughter, Dahut, was a practicing witch. She presided over a cult that worshipped the wall, and regularly swam outside the walls to conduct ceremonies. The city became a beacon to pagans throughout Europe, and many came to live in Yis or participate in debaucherous festivals dedicated to various gods. The city continued to grow in prosperity, even as blood sacrifices and cult gatherings increased. Dahut and her followers began to worship something that lived in the deep waters outside the gate. Dahut made a plan that would earn favor with the entity. She took lovers from visitors coming to Yis, provided they wore a black satin mask she gave them when they arrived in her bedchamber. The mask was retrofitted with springs that would activate when the person fell asleep, suffocating them. A hulking figure would enter the castle through a window and take the body to the top of the wall. It would throw the corpse into the sea to appease the thing that lay beneath the waves. This cycle continued on for years. One day, a knight dressed in crimson plate arrived at Yis on a bright morning. The skies were a violent red, signaling that a terrible storm was inbound. The knight was very handsome, and Dahut was intrigued. She had dinner with him and took him to her bedchamber. She was so infatuated with the knight that she didn't make him wear the satin mask. The storm rolled in, and the two watched from the safety of the castle. "Fear not," said Dahut. "The walls are high and wide, and the gates are strong enough to withstand any storm." "Oh, really? Well, if you're so cool, why don't you just open the gates and see if that storm is really that bad?" said the knight. "The gates can only be opened with a key my father, King Gradlon, has, and he keeps it around his neck. Let the storm rage." "Your dad's a narcoleptic. If you really loved me, you'd get the key and open the gate." "That I could, and that I will show my love," said Dahut. Dahut went and opened the gate, and the waves crushed the city and took out all the inhabitants. The Red Knight escaped and was never seen again. Alright, that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching this far. If you enjoyed the video, check out the rest of the channel. If you want to support me further, consider subscribing or take a look at the Patreon. I'll see you soon. Take care and have a great night.